right here on March Day. I tell you, it looks like Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. This is a nice look. Very nice. Well, welcome to the Ashland-Bayfield County Inventors Entrepreneurs Gathering here for Business on Stage. This is our third allotment this year, so glad that you could be here. I'm Scotty Sandstrom from the Bayfield County Economic Development Corporation, so welcome. Launching from our event in April when we had Lisa Johnson from the WEDC, we're now moving into a great evening with Grant Herman and Gail Green to talk about their journey with their dream business and perhaps some spins and turns in there, but we're so looking forward to, maybe not, but we're looking forward to hearing of how they can inspire us tonight, so glad they're here. And also looking forward to October 23rd, we happen to have Dave Vedder here from Breddings, and Dave is the Director of Engineering from CG Bredding over in Ashland, and he's going to present new product development. And this presentation will be a combination of keys to successful product development and the actual business of what needs to be done with new products. So it may spur some ideas on how you can market your product, how you can take that product and go from local to regional to perhaps global. So if you have a good idea and you can develop it well, the sky would be the limit. So look forward to having Dave here in October as well. So as I always do, let's give a big round of applause to all who's been instrumental in planning this event, and to our stage north, Noah, for again welcoming us there. And also special thanks to our event sponsors. First of all, Gary Lapine from Evergreen Shopper Printing Plus. He has underwritten season sponsorship for this event, so it means that he is just taking care of the whole year here with a portion of his advertising through Evergreen Shopper. So thanks, Gary, very much. And then secondly, to the Ashland Area Chamber of Commerce, Mary McFetridge. She also sponsored this event, so glad that she stepped up to do that. It's great to have the chambers. It's a vital thing that they're involved, and we appreciate the Ashland Area Chamber of Commerce for also to all the other print media and the chambers who also have been sponsoring as well. So we appreciate that support. And before we get along to the program, which will be shortly, but I have a little more laundry list here to go over. On Friday, August 3rd, which is a week from Friday, the 2012 Lake Superior Business and Technology Conference will be held at WITC in Ashland. And the Business Idea Contest will be the highlight of that conference. And there are 11 finalists who are vying for first, second, and third place, and there's a total cash prize of $5,000 that will be split between those three finalists. And Lisa Johnson, who did the presentation here last time, she with the WEDC stepped up and she provided $2,500 of that $5,000 toward that contest. So glad to see our tax dollars coming back here north, so I'm very thankful for her to do that. She's going to be one of the 5 judges as well, so out at the literature table there, as you go out to the right, there's information on that conference and how you can register to come, so please take advantage of that and hope to see everybody there next Friday, week from Friday. And speaking of the literature table, there's some more information from other economic development groups and other businesses, so avail yourself to that as well. You were provided tan-colored feedback cards, and so was I tonight. Did you get one of these? If not, raise your hand, and because we want to have your feedback. This has been very integral for us to have information as we debrief each event and as we plan future events. So it really is helpful for us. So please hand it to someone if there's someone there with a friendly face going out, or put it on a literature table. So thanks for doing that. Cliff Grand, Cliff is right over here from the Ashland Area Development. He'll be out in the foyer later, and he will, of course, be representing Ashland County. If you have any startup business or want to talk about how you can expand your business in Ashland County, he's the guy. And of course, I'm the guy for Bayfield County, so I'll be out there lollygagging later, so look us up. And also, we'll have question and answer opportunities after the presentation for about 15-20 minutes here in the theater. And I would suspect that Grant and Gail would be glad to hang around if you have some other questions you want to present to them out in the foyer later. And please do continue to support Stage North with your beverage selections after the event. And one more plug before I have Tim Kane was here. He's our Bayfield County UW Extension educator. He's going to introduce the program tonight. One more thing I want to mention is the Washburn Chamber of Commerce, as they always do this time of the year, from Friday through Sunday, they're having their Brownstone Days event. And the big highlight this year is the Tom Blake Board Across the Bay race and festival, which will take place beginning Friday. They're going to have a round-trip boarding race from Washburn to Ashland and back, and then also another event going from Washburn over to Ashland. And so this is highlighted from Tom Blake, who was grew up here, and he actually spent his last years here. And actually, Grant was instrumental in telling the story to the Washburn Chamber to get them excited about having this event. And I believe Grant, and I know that Grant was very instrumental in writing the grant. So, and I suspect that, Grant, when you were growing up, and when your parents looked at you and you picked up a pen and a piece of paper, and they said, that's grant writing, well, they're more prophetic than they do. So, well, you've heard enough, haven't you? So here's Tim, come on up and introduce tonight's speaker.
At least he lowered the standard for humor.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce Gail Green and Grant Herman, who are the co-owners of Living Adventure Incorporated, a sea kayaking and outdoor adventure travel business. And tonight we'll really hear from Gail and Grant how they came up with their business idea, how they started their business, financed their enterprise, and how they marketed and grew their business, and some of the challenges they overcame along the way, as we know all business entrepreneurs face. I'm just going to say a few words about Gail and Grant, and a little bit about their background. They have an excellent website, so if you really want to find out all about their business, and I encourage you to go there. Just do a Google search for Living Adventure, and you'll find it. Gail Green is the co-founder and director of Living Adventure Incorporated. She has over 20 years experience leading international expeditions and teaching outdoor adventure skills and guiding groups. Gail developed travel experiences in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula and was involved in the formation of the Apostle Islands business that we're talking about here tonight. She was an instructor, trainer, educator for coastal sea kayaking in the America Canoe Association, and also she's certified with the British Canoe Union. So Gail is obviously an expert in canoeing. She's been an active long-distance racer in sea kayaking. She holds the course record at the Two Harbors Kayak Festival in the 18-mile marathon. So Gail's an accomplished marathon kayaker. Her primary roles with the company Living Adventure Incorporated are to manage the staff, design innovative programs, marketing, and long-range planning. And Gail has also been very active and really the major source of energy and ideas behind the Inland Sea Symposium, which I think it used to be an annual event, now it's every other year, and held in the Schwamgen Bay here. It's a great opportunity for kayakers and those kind of folks from around the country, I think, participate in that symposium. Gail's business partner, Grant Herman, has served from 1976 to through 2000 as a professor of outdoor education and/or coordinator for the Outdoor Education Environmental Studies program at Northland College. And a lot of people know Grant from his work at Northland College over the years. It goes without saying he's had extensive teaching background, including 25 years presenting courses in four-season technical adventure skills, recreational leadership, experiential education, environmental education, interpretive design program, and developing environmental issue-specific seminars. In 2002, Grant left Northland College and joined Gail in Adventures and Perspectives, which was kind of the precursor to the current business, now Living Adventures Incorporated. And together they launched the Apostle Islands-based sea kayaking outfitting business to complement the Yucatan adventure travel business that Gail had started back in 1996. So Gail had a business enterprise going for quite a while before that. And then from 2002 until 2007, Grant worked hand in hand with Gail getting Living Adventures Incorporated up and running, and Grant really kind of focused on systems, sustainability, staff training, landscape and facility oversight, and as a liaison with Living Adventure Incorporated's business partners. And then in 2007, Grant went back to Northland College to direct the Sigurd Olson Environmental Institute, where he did that up until July of 2011. Now Grant is often commissioned by various organizations and groups to facilitate workshops and often focusing on organizational development type of things. So together, Grant and Gail manage their business, Living Adventure Incorporated, which includes a staff of 35 people during the summer months. This is their busiest time of the year, and we really are thankful they willing to take some time out of their busiest part of their season to be here tonight to share about their business. And then in the winter months, in the Yucatan, staff is down about 4 to 6 staff persons that work in Gail and Grant's business. So please welcome Gail and Grant Herman to tell their business story.
That's quite an introduction. There's stuff I didn't even know.
Yeah, maybe that's a double speech. Should we just go?
Yeah, we're done. Did you know this was the stage for Romeo and Juliet? That was ironic.
I think that more works though.
Yeah. Thank you for coming, everyone. We're excited about this and know a lot of people in the audience here, and really excited to share some details of Living Adventure, and our journey was a good word, our journey into developing the business. The introduction that I thought I was going to do tonight went out the window last night, and it was a spontaneous circumstance happened that authored the introduction, and it perfectly underscores one of our main points of small business development, which is adaptability. So I was typing up some of our notes on my computer in my office last night, and I heard our home phone ringing, and so I got up. I have a little cabin office, just across 10 feet from home. So I went in the house and picked it up, and it was one of our guides out on Oak Island, where he had left that morning with a trip. And he goes, the one guy on the trip, he got an insect bite in his eyeball.
Oh.
And his eyeball is swelling, it was really bad, his wife's freaking out, and, wanted to discuss it with you, and I thought, the owner of Napa Auto Parts is not getting calls like this. Easy, and so every business has their own pros and cons and challenges and wonderful things that occurs, and it all came out perfectly well. But I would also like to say, in the form of introduction here, that Grant and I are not experts in business. We don't have degrees in business. We didn't go to business school, but we have managed to produce, create, and run a successful business. So hoping that some of what we did will resonate with people here. Maybe some of the things that we didn't do, you will avoid. And, but at the bottom line, we hope that it's, you know, helpful and inspirational to everyone. And we'll answer, you know, the questions from our experience base as best as we can.
One of the great things about running a business in this area is that there are so many supportive organizations to help you do what you do when you're not sure what to do. And tonight's activity is no exception to that. Here's a bunch of people who spend their time organizing events to help create conditions for success for small businesses in our region. And that's just such a great resource. Almost always when you start a small business, you run out of material. You know, you only know so much, and there's obstacles everywhere, and how big those obstacles become are really a function of how creative you are about partnering with people to solve those problems. So really, they're just problems, and some hard work and networking can usually solve them. But if you try to do everything yourself, sometimes those obstacles are pretty big. So anyway, one of the reasons I like doing business in this area is because of all the community pieces that are around here to network with. Business is so much about relationship and communication, and so I think of all the relationships our business has, that we depend on those relationships for the nature of our program, and it's just amazing. I mean, it's hundreds, you know, that have built up over the years, but it's a great place to do business for those of you that haven't done it or are considering it. So just a little bit of overview of our talk, so you know what we're going to get into. We're going to talk a little bit about just the history of our business, hoping that you might be able to find a few snippets there to take into your own ideas, either because you like them and would like to emulate them, or because you hate them and you would like to avoid them. Either one of those are good. We certainly did that when we started our business. We had sort of lists of things to do and not to do. So the history, so within that, you know, the creative process, the planning, the financial strategy, what operations look like, and how we do business on a day-to-day basis. We'll talk about all of those things. And then we'll talk about, you know, the challenges, what it takes to be a sustainable business, both in terms of survivability and also in terms of how to try to do that in some kind of harmonic way with the environment, trying to reduce carbon and all the rest of it. And just how adaptable you have to be as a small business person. So we'll work on that. And after a very short conclusion, we'll try to go right to question and answers. Having attended the last one, there are lots of great questions, so we're hoping that you can pepper us with those, and we'll do our best to field those. And if you have questions anywhere along the line that you don't think you can remember till the end, if you're like me, feel free to spout them out, but otherwise there'll be plenty of time to do that at the end. Okay, when we started our business, there are two things that really happened that really got us going. One is we met each other. That was critical. And, both Gail and I had, you know, this long history of adventuring in our past, and a lot of that happened to be focused around paddling, and so we met each other pretty soon after Gail moved into the area in 1988, and we did some common programming for another company, and so we got to know each other as professional paddlers and teachers, and then eventually when we became a couple in '95, you know, we started having these conversations about, well, oh, you have this skill set, I have that skill set, and how can we really do that? So the very first really great thing that happened is that we just got together and started sharing that. So Tim kind of went over both of our backgrounds, and I'm just cutting that, Gail, a little bit.
Yeah, let's cut yours, I'll go inside. No. So I would just say the significant thing about, thank you, that was a great introduction, but when we saw the spectrum of skills, you know, the holes or the lackings that one of us had, another one had. You know, as we started to discover the common themes, the common passion, the common deep-rooted ideas that would really sustain us together. And then one was good, better at this, one was better at that. It was starting to look like a nice fit, a nice combination for a small business. So, yeah.
You know, we both kind of had this sort of feeling about, you know, when you're out doing, you know, adventurous things or things that get you into sort of passionate contact with nature, that, you know, it has a powerful impact on our character and our soul and everything. And wanting, is that something that we could create a business around, helping other people do? Because not everybody lives on the lake and does this as their central piece. They have to take their experience and get it into a smaller time frame. And could we be part of helping to create that happen? And we both really wanted to do that. The sharing of it was important to us, partly because of our teaching background and just we just like to do that.
Could you speak up just a little bit,
Yeah,
please?
pardon.
Do we need mics?
Well, maybe if you speak up a little more, might help.
Okay, so we had this, how's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
So we had this coming together thing, and it just became a creative sort of pool of ideas. What about this? What about this? What about this? And so we spent some time trying to figure out which of those ideas probably had some kind of economic viability, and which of those were either just harebrained or just things you would do on your own, but you wouldn't necessarily design a program around that you would take people on, trying to maintain certain standards of safety and quality and all of that. So that really got us to the just that creative start place. And of course, not every business is going to follow that little train where you fall in love and you both have this common interest, and then you start a business based on that. But I think the concept that's general enough is that partnering when you start a small business is a really good idea, because your own creativity usually only goes so far. And if you can find good partners, whether those are partners inside the business or advisors or other people who have done similar business, it's really critical to help you deal with your weaknesses, and you're going to have some. We certainly did. And so that idea of asking yourself, like, who's my partner in this business concept? And it might be your husband or wife, or it might be your brother or sister, or it might be someone you have to go get advice from and hire to get it. You know, not everybody has, you know, a partner just sitting in the across the table. But we would just encourage you not to overlook the fact that having partners in your ideas is a critical phase of business startup.
Okay, a couple other early factors that pushed us into, we're now in the planning, creating phase, going, it sounds like a good idea, we're excited about it. We were both had a common goal that we felt that there was a need in the local area, in the Apostle Islands Lakeshore area, to create an outfitter, a sea kayak-based center where customer service was put at the forefront. High quality customer service. And we were kind of driven to that out of some of our previous experiences, and just because that was the way we were used to conducting our own lives. Also, we were both curious about the leadership component of running a small business. We've both been leaders and teachers along the way in various of our other endeavors in life. But as small business owners, we were curious about what does that picture look like? Can I effectively lead a team of people? The relationship-driven idea, based on trust, based on common vision, and I was particularly interested to see how that would play out. So being driven by this assortment of ideas, I think Grant mentioned, there was sort of this 1-2 punch that really ignited the process, the one being us coming together, and the two being that at the time we were renting a small apartment and office on the land that is now Living Adventure out in Red Cliff. If you've been there, you've seen what a beautiful, unique, old, special piece of land it was. Privately owned. by a couple. And privately owned with a fee simple title, but it was within the Red Cliff community on the lake, you know, with a nice, beautiful piece of lake shore. And so when we knew the owners and when we found out that they were going to sell the land, we freaked out basically, and we thought, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be perfect? And then we thought, oh my gosh, no way, the money. And then we saw a developer standing on the shoreline with the owner looking out, and then we thought, oh my gosh, let's get going, you know, and that was really the impetus. That's what started us hardcore into, okay, the land is available, we've got these skills available, let's dive in.
So we, of course, we had, between the two of us, we had 2 cars that collectively, I think, were about 25 years old. A couple of really choice pairs of skis, and a couple of really beat up kayaks. So that was our collateral that we were planning on taking to the bank. And we had a good friend of ours who was a business developer, consultant at Bremer Bank. And when we told him what we had after he got done laughing, you know, he said, you know, you just got to have a plan. And so we went to the University of Wisconsin Extension and just worked with their small business development people there from, I think the gal was from UWS at the time, maybe still is, and just got really a template for how to do a business plan. And we just followed that sucker and did the homework. It took us 3 or 4 months. It was a really significant document. I think it was 100 pages long or something by the time we got done with it. But there were so many things about running a small business that we didn't know. We didn't know what the competition was. We didn't know what the market was really like. We didn't really know who made the best equipment in this area. We didn't really even know that much about management. We knew a fair amount of the theory, but what it would really be like. And so we spent the winter of 2001 really working on that business plan. And that was such a great process for both of us. We learned so much about how to do this. So I think that's part of like doing your homework. I would never avoid that step. We had some friends that were really instrumental to us in that process too, but eventually by the end of it we said like, wow, we need a ton of money to pull this thing off, you know, like just had a lot of zeros on it. So we thought, well, how are we going to get that kind of money, because we didn't have it ourselves. So we spent another few months contacting every family member we ever had that still liked us, and we'd already, of course, had a lot of clients that we've been paddling and teaching with over the years. We picked out a few of those that we thought were particularly sensitive, especially on the wealthy side, and asked them, and it took us a while, but we eventually scraped together the money that we needed to provide the capital for developing the business and moving ahead then with the land sale.
It was one thing about our backgrounds. I tended to have more of a, I did art professionally for a couple of decades, and I think I had 2 bosses that I ever worked for in my life. I kind of followed a more entrepreneurial path than Grant in his life, and once those zeros did start ending up, we had the land, we had a figure to work with, and it was high, and then we added in equipment, and then we added in facility upgrades and things like that, you know, and it was just, you know, I was kind of like, just keep the zeros going, whatever. That was like, ah! You know, it was, there was some of the differences showed up at that time, although we were both completely committed. I think one dynamic at that point for us in determining the scope of the business, what is the scope we are willing to do here? What is the risk? And being in our ripe young 50s when we started this, we weren't 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds that would possibly take a different approach to borrowing money, to a slower development. We had lived long, full lives and knew what quality looked like in our lives, in our professional lives. And as I said a little earlier, a quality business was not a compromisable point. It had to be that way from the get-go, from equipment, staff, training, everything. And so that meant a lot of money as well. And we wanted to start out, we just decided we need to start out at 50 years old, with double barrel. Just, borrow it all now, just big plunge, to just not have to do it halfway from the start. We had a solid bunch of people supporting us that could start in with staff for us. That was key. So we had a team that we could start with right off the bat. So we felt confident because of that. But those factors of the quality and just wanting to not nickel and dime. Should we put a dirt floor in the boathouse or should we put a $30,000 concrete floor? We're doing the concrete floor. And just decisions like that all along the way as we contemplated that loan. Is it your turn?
So we raised about $100,000, just asking everybody we knew, and took that to the bank, with collateral.
We that and those personal friends and so forth loans were all on interest payback strategies. So these weren't just all gifts from family. These were carefully calculated. For this $100,000, we'll pay you back in, I think it was 5 years. We figured we might have enough money to just hit that first degree of loan.
Yeah, but we offered them like a 7% return on their money, and so that was better than anything else they could get on the market. And we're just going like, oh man, I hope this works out. And yeah, some of them were 5-year terms, some of them were 7, but it was a way to do that. And since we knew some of these people really well, like your sister and your mother and things like that, man, we did not want to do that wrong. And so it provided some additional incentive for really following through on things because there were relationships at risk as well as the money. But we got this great call from one of our friends. He worked for Ford Motor Company, and we were telling him about how we were a little worried about managing this money or raising money. He goes, "They don't have debtors' prisons anymore."
That was helpful. So we were looking at, kind of in the $500,000 level at that time, and so it was staggering. Later, 5 years later, we would cross paths in the street with one of our initial bankers, and he would just shake his head. He said, "I cannot believe the risk you took." So that was going on too. At that time, the lending mood for banks was not great. 9/11 had occurred. People were conservative. It was tough. And we saw that we were going to have a tough time getting $50,000 here, $50,000 there, small business loan here and there, and we were sweating that. And I'm going to let Grant talk about the next little. Our financial advisor talks about angels coming across your way once in a while, and we had one at this point.
So initially, we worked with Bayfield revolving loan fund. And then Redcliffe at that time had a revolving loan fund too that we were able to tap into. Bremer Banks had a small business fund, and then we heard about this organization called Impact 7, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. But they're a nonprofit lending institution, and they specialize in lending to businesses who live in areas that are economically depressed. And Redcliffe is the poorest Indian reservation in the state of Wisconsin, so it qualifies all over the place. So Impact 7 was already doing a bunch of different projects there. And so we applied to them as well for, I think it was a $50,000 loan. And we were kind of hanging on that because it wasn't going to quite be enough, but we thought, well, that's what we're going to get. And so we're just going to have to pare our ideas down to the amount of money that we can get. That's what it's going to be like. And Redcliffe, the tribal council and some of their economic development people were really supportive of this idea too. So we were all kind of standing around waiting to the final straw.
So I will never forget the day that the representative from Impact 7, or the meeting, he walked into our kitchen which was the rental unit of what is now Living Adventure and what is now an office there, we've developed into, and he sat down and we were like, oh, this doesn't look too good, and he said, well, we can't loan you $50,000. You're just crushed. And he said, but we'll loan you $250,000. It was like, what? What did you say? I mean, seriously, that's literally how it came down there. We'll loan you $250,000. And we were stunned. Basically, the reason was with a lending institute like Impact 7, they had needs to get their money to pour money into the projects around Red Cliff, basically. And all over the state. So serendipitously, they had a need to loan a company, a startup like us, in an economically depressed area like Red Cliff. And so it fit their criteria perfectly, and it fit ours perfectly. and that was the launch. That was it. And based on that and that $100,000, we were able to go out and get some equipment loans. And then we, that was 2002. And so then we launched. Then we went in full bore, ordering, planning, and so forth.
So up to that point, we were even considering like land contract with the people that would do their, so you can keep your initial investment as low as possible. But a land contract, you can spend less money up front, but you have a relationship with a landowner for a long time, and which would have been okay, but it sort of felt to us like, gee, we're going to kind of have them breathing down our neck for the next 15 years until we can come up with this money. So we decided to take that risk, and it worked out much better for them. They wanted the money for retirement, and so they're out and about, and we got a place to do our business. So it was a real benefit. So as Tim said earlier, we had this other business going that Gail was running called Adventures in Perspective, where she was largely doing sea kayak and art adventure vacations in Mexico, down in the Yucatan. And in 2001, when we started looking at doing these kinds of things, we initially did all of these things under the auspices of that business, Adventures in Perspective, and we stayed as a self-proprietorship at that point. So a self-proprietorship, as you probably know, is where your personal finances and your business finances are all really pretty much the same thing. If you take a business loan, you're responsible for it. If you take a personal loan, the business is probably part of it too. It's all accounted for tax-wise as one thing, which is not a bad way to go. If it's just you and one other person, or just you or something, it's worth taking a look at. The only downside of it is the liability for your business behavior also bleeds over into your personal life. So you're putting your personal assets at risk at that point a little bit more than you would if you were going to do a limited liability corporation or a full-blown corporation. So at that point, since we had the 2 cars, 2 skis, and kayaks, we thought, liability, what do we have to lose? So that's what we did. We left it as a self-proprietorship because our liability exposure really was pretty small. And that carried on until, well, I'll save that for later. The good part about Living Adventure was that it pretty much just exploded. Like even the very first year, we hired more staff and we bought more equipment twice in the first summer. It just went from, boy, I hope this works, Mabel, to like, where are we going to get help to meet the commitment? All kinds of nonprofit groups calling us, quite a backlog of just people looking for a great paddling vacation in the area. They heard about us, and the chamber in Bayfield was just fantastic. So that process gave us a lot of just belief in ourselves that this thing was really possible. As Gail alluded to earlier, we had this really great staffing situation where I had a lot of students at Northland in the outdoor education program that had taken a lot of paddling courses from me over the years. A bunch of them had gone out and worked for outdoor companies all around the country and had moved back into this area. And a bunch of those people had worked for Gail when she was running the Outdoor Adventure Program at Trek and Trail in Bayfield. And so, but they had all figured like, oh, I'm done being a guide. So we called them all up, you know, would you come help us do it? And 4 or 5 of them said yes. And so we started our staff with people that knew us really well, and we knew them really well. And the safety part of what we do, which is just so critical, you know, that you have to maintain both for liability reasons and just for quality customer care. We started with a really high level of confidence right away. And as soon as we hired more staff, we would just tuck them under the wings of these really experienced guides. And we still do that. We're still always putting our younger guys with the older guys on the trail, and it takes people a long time to go through the system, but once they're in really good shape. So that was really key for our success.
So our business structure, tax structure evolved from the sole proprietorship as we grew in 2005, we created a corporation, subchapter S corporation. It was a more fluid way to run our taxes. It gave us the liability shelter, as Grant mentioned, separated. All of a sudden it was Grant. It was really a good way to go for ourselves personally as well. We ended up renting the facility and the buildings and the land to Living Adventure to run the program on, and we took on the mortgage and some of the personal loans ourselves. And it's been a really nice relationship that way. It also allowed us to bring in shareholders. So we determined the value of the corporation at that time, and we structured it with shares, and then we brought in a 25% partner, really good friends of ours that came in, and they were the ones who actually, their percentage in buying of the shares helped us pay off those $100,000, that first initial level of loans. So that was taken care of. We had a silent owner, who, by the way, now these days he's a vice president of Merrill Lynch, and he said it's the best investment he's ever made. He's pretty happy about his ownership in Living Adventure, and so that's kind of how our structuring went. And then just sort of to conclude this, sort of how the history of the business went. Over the years since then, we've done well. We've made mostly good decisions. We've been lucky. We have the Apostle Islands. We have Lake Superior. There's if we just do the right thing and stand out of the way of what that natural resource is, we have such an advantage, and we know that. So we just try to complement that with the way we shape experience for our customers. We sell experience. And it's a very unique concept. We don't sell a product on the shelf. We sell something where our customers have a responsibility for the outcome of that product. It's an amazingly intriguing concept. So we became to understand our cash flow. Cash flow, if you said that to me in 2001, I'd like, yeah, there's $5 in the bank, you know. We began to understand our equipment needs in the spring. You know, we came to where we didn't need an early revolving loan to cover those initial equipment expenditures. We had enough saved off from the high season. We were able to pay out our dividends to the shareholders each year without having to bury that back into development, because we were making the development. So it's going well. Living Adventure is debt-free. So we're ecstatic about that, and it's self-sustaining, and it's a place where we're going to talk in a minute about what sustains us, as well as the business, what keeps us going in a rigorous, hard-working endeavor like a small business. But we're happy to say it's going well, and we're serving our customers and our staff very well. So that's sort of a conclusion of just that history part, and we're going to move into just some of key points that have flushed to the surface for us that we thought we'd share with you.
We're going to take this up.
Yeah.
So one of the things we said, a recommendation we had for everyone was just really ask yourself that question, am I the right kind of person to run a small business? Ton of work, you have to be super committed, you have to be really invested in good communication. And I think those things are just vital to really making it work. And to the extent that you're not good at one of those are just excellent opportunities for partnership. But you want to be able to get to those three things if you want to be successful with this business. One of my little examples was my dad, who ran a really huge corporation. It's like 1,700 employees or something. And the guy was like a total introvert. Like, I could never get him to say anything. And but I worked at this corporation one summer when I was a teenager. So I would see him go through the plant every day. This was a big printing company, so they had, you know, massive presses and just real serious industry. And there he was, you know, just walking through the plant, talking with everybody, making sure they had what they were needing. Gab, 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 gab. And I thought, he's communicating. I learned years later he was communicating with me too. I just didn't get it. But it was really neat to see someone who is really a pretty quiet guy go ahead and learn how to do the communication skills to make that business run. And I've seen a bunch of people in this town do that same thing. I'm always marveling at the IGA over there and just how that family runs that business. I just love it. Very similar to that way my dad went about that. Oh, I must be talking too loud.
Hello. Grant's point there also is just to underscore, know yourself, know your limitations and your strengths when you go into small business ownership, and be ready to manage and the areas that you can't fulfill yourself. How do you sustain yourself? And we thought about that, sustaining ourselves. By the way, are we okay on time? Should we
It's getting late.
wait, or? All right. I think this sustain yourself thing is important because we work like crazy. You know, we work hard, and we've worked hard the whole time, and you're going to do that in a small business, I believe. That's my experience. Anyways, and recognizing where to plug in to refill when you're just empty. And for us, it's watching our customers drive in our driveway and live an adventure there from generally urban areas, and either one half day or 1 day or 1 week later, when they finish their trip, watching them drive out the driveway. And the transformation is inspiring. It's amazing, and that's because of where they've been. It's because of our staff. It's because of our customer service. Our evals are incredible, what people say about Living Adventure. It's just, and that to me, when at the darkest hours, you know, I'm filled back up with that, as well as our staff. So taking really good care of our staff is really important to us. And watching them develop over summer, you know, it's a crossroads for them in their lives to spend a summer or 2 or 3 or 4 at Living Adventure, and off they go into their lives, tend to be younger. And they grow, they're moved. We're giving them a lot. We're giving them the tools that they need to really be the best that they can be, and that feels tremendously good too. That's inspiring and nourishing as well. Okay, the professional sustainability, we also have organizational sustainability, where we're talking about our travel green, but we'll shortcut that. The marketing has been strategic and important for Living Adventure. We just started in, you know, really based on personal context, our own personal context, locally, regionally, and nationally. Grant and I had both traveled quite a bit, done international trips, so people knew of us in our specialty area, the sea kayaking, teaching, and so forth. So it grew from there to we do shows, which are very important for us. We go to Cornucopia in Madison. We appear in public at these trade shows 3 times a year. We do slideshows and presentations. We have a booth where we really put it out there who we are. We used to do print mailings, but when it got to cost about $15,000 to produce and mail about 7,000 mailing pieces,
we took a hard right away from there and got on the e-zine. And our email, our database right now, we have about 8,000 on our email list. And we have a professional company that we work with. It costs us about $350 to send out a blurb to that list. So that beats the heck out of $15,000. And then, as we all know, you can really work your website well. What else is on there, Grant? We have wonderful relationships with local partners, the Chamber of Commerce, critical, the accommodations, the restaurants, the local people. We do some really solid trades with, and they really help our business. They talk about us, they support us, really critical. We have that national outreach. We enjoy national media, television. We've had some really key pieces in magazines, and we've been lucky because of the promotion we get regionally and just because of our notoriety. When a magazine approaches us for advertising, my comment is, you know, we really don't do paid advertising, but we'll let you run a story on us. And I mean, we've got some really big stories in some national press that way. So that's a kind of a good way to work your unique aspects of your business in the marketing.
The last thing that we do, which is kind of a soft sell marketing approach, is we've gotten on the bandwagon with Wisconsin Travel Green program. They've just got such a great, easy way to sort of just do a sustainability analysis of your business. They've got a great workbook that just walks you all through the different parts of your business, where then you can assess what your carbon impact is and what you can do about it in the next year. So you set yearly goals, and then you just report back to them on how you did on your goals. They don't really tell you what to do in any way. They just give you the components of how to analyze your business. It's just been great. And because we know the strengths and weaknesses of our business. You know, we run 15-passenger, 8-cylinder vehicles, and we buy wetsuits from India, and I mean, we're using up carbon in our business. And so what can we do to try to, you know, balance that out? And there's a million answers to it and lots of obstacles, but that process has been great. Should we just go right to?
Let's go right to this. Yeah, I think we should. And add what you want, Graham, but I think as a final, when we really thought about what is the key message that we could leave from our experience about starting the small business and all the way through, the word is adaptability. Got to be adaptable for, you know, all of the unforeseen, all of the challenges that come along the way, the hard ones and the soft ones, and be ready to flux and flow with those. You know, we had our pole barn shut down for a year when we started. We had our launch shut down for a year. We had just a lot of things that we had to flux and flow. We had to change our whole marketing strategy for the market over 15 years of how the demographics of sea kayakers in this area have changed. So to recognize it and then meet it and be able to not be stuck in your agenda. You know, the original plans that we thought Living Adventure would really rock and roll with, 3 or 4 of those we never have even thought about again. So you know, really the adaptability would be a key message to everybody here tonight. Is that here?
Yeah, that's
Okay, good. We're welcoming your questions. Just open forum. Okay.
I'd like to have you talk a little bit more about your training. Clearly, this business is dependent a lot on your staff, and the process of recruiting, the kind of quality of character that you look for in the people that you hire, and then how you bring them along and how you are able to retain them from one season to another.
Did you hear the question? Basically about staff. How do we
training.
And retaining. A really nice trend that's happened to us, Bruce, over the years from the beginning is people now come to us. We have a pile of resumes that we get to go through as our reputation has grown, and people are guides from across the country, have heard of Living Adventure and they've heard of the Apostle Islands and they want a chance to come here. we ask, in our interviews, we ask our staff questions like, define integrity. What does professionalism mean to you? And some really poignant questions that help us really shape shape where to put them in their roles, and that we can do some culling right off the bat. We've had we employ about 32 people in the summer. And so that's one of the challenges of a seasonal job is where do we find these people? Northland College is a great source. And now, as I say, people coming from all over the country. That's the guiding jobs. Our boathouse field operations, our office people are more local, regional. Northland College is a great source. And I think over all the years, we were talking about this the other day, I think 2 people of hundreds of employees that at some point this summer we will just go, this isn't a good fit. It's not a good fit for us. It's not really a good fit for you. Other than that, we're pretty careful in the hiring.
As far as the training goes, of course, we lined up with professional trade associations like the American Canoe Association and some other things that have, a certification process. And so we went through that process when we were developing as professionals, and just kept working on higher and higher levels of certification. So we use their format, and we certify our staff at a certain level, and we sort of make it an incentive. We pay for all the training, and they have to pay for the exam, which isn't cheap. It's like $250 or something. If they come back the next year, we will reimburse them that money. And so it doesn't really cost them anything except a little commitment. And so, and we start working on that early. We ask them to come back. We think about what they can do, and we offer them positions the summer before. And so they at least have that as an option as they're looking at all of their options. And quite often it works. Having said that, this was our biggest overturn of staff year that we've ever had, and it made quite a difference. We've worked a lot harder this summer just filling gaps when people don't have as much experience as we've enjoyed in the last few years, but that's one of the little adaptations. For instance, I make hummus and pesto and do wraps in the morning these days, which I wouldn't be your first choice necessarily to do that. And but it's been great, and that's where our weakness is this year. So there you go. And it's been pretty fun. I've learned a lot about the kitchen that I never knew before. It's more than a refrigerator and tables. Good question.
What else?
In a seasonal business like that, how do you sustain yourself through the winter with loan payments and all that? Because obviously that's dead time, so.
Yes, well, we budget and plan because, and like I said a little earlier, now we have a better sense of what we're going to come out of the fall with in the bank, and we do have a winter income in our Yucatan trips, and it's not anything like the income of our summer. Those 10 weeks are responsible for probably 75% of the gross income that runs the company. So when we have bad weather in June, it hurts because you can't make it up in October, and so we just budget it out and have that additional income over the winter that kind of keeps the bottom of the account from tanking. And just about May, it's like, and then in come summer dollars. So we look at it carefully.
Can you say it? Oh, sorry.
One second. So you can figure that kind of stuff out. So like, what is your overhead per month? You come up with a figure. Oh, it's $5,000, and geez, you're not going to make a dime for another 8 months. So you better say 40 grand, and things like that. And so you do, and or you set up a line of credit with a bank a little bit, and you can go get what you need off that line of credit, and then you just try to pay it back when the money's good, and it's just a back and forth. But that's usually what a line of credit does, and we used one of those for the first few years until that 40 grand was more than just a hope. But then once you're making it, then you just have to have the discipline to put it away. Sorry, Jeff.
That's okay. I was wondering how many customers a summer season you have currently, approximately, And then are you at liberty to divulge what your gross might be?
We do about 3,000 people a summer.
Wow.
So like, we'll have days like this time of year, you've got 3 day trips, there's 12 people on a day trip, 2 half days, there's 12 people on a half day. We might have a safety clinic for people who are gonna just rent. We don't just rent boats to people, we have them do a little safety training so we can rent them a boat in good conscience. We might be sending out a 4-day trip, a 5-day trip, a 3-day trip, and then a bunch of those are coming in. So you might have maybe 100 people running around the facility on a given day, 80 kayaks going one way or another, and it's pretty crazy, but it's really fun. Trying to think gross sales. We're up over about somewhere between $500,000 and $700,000 a year gross sales, and a bunch of that money, of course, runs out the back door. But there's enough there to pay the staff a good salary, do facilities development, and still have a little bit of money at the end of the year to pay out to shareholders. So it feels pretty solid. This year's kind of interesting with tourism is pretty, who knows? Tourists are gonna do, because every year it's really different. Like this year, day trips are a little down, 4-day trips are off the wall. Who I would never, ever have predicted that. But it's significant because day trips are the bread and butter thing that we really do. That's where the money is in the business, So you start, then you look at your marketing and you go like, how come that's a little down? And then you find out, well, Seakaki's down all over the country, and so maybe it isn't just us. Door County's down, you start looking around a little bit. And then you decide if you're gonna let that happen, because it's down, you're gonna go get them anyway.
I would really congratulate you guys for bringing in 3,000 people into the area and the effect of spending their money in the area. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we're still stunned by it, really, too, but, yeah, thank you.
You talked about customer service earlier, and I think that people show up with a set of expectations that they are going to spend money with you and have a great experience. You talked about how the thrill that you got seeing them leave, and I'm wondering, what's your wow factor? What makes, you push them, their expectations to be much greater? I mean, your expectations are greater. Good?
Our expectations.
Well, what I guess
For
what I'm saying
them.
is that, they come in with a sort of an expectation to get from you. What do you do to go beyond that, to make them just go out and tell everybody in their neighborhood?
What do we do to elevate people's incoming expectations even further when they leave? It's true on our evals. If we get evals, we're so spoiled. If a guy gets, if it's like a 1 through 10 or very good, extremely good, and we kind of get a very good, we're like, what did we do wrong? Because they're all so high. People we hear oftentimes, I think people coming from a lot of urban areas are surprised to be treated so courteously. We find that because we've got it going so people pull in, they're met by the boathouse field operation people, they're escorted to a parking place, down to the office, all the way through. And then, so it's like up-fronting insurance. They're already expecting a good time. Then you take them out on Lake Superior with very knowledgeable guides who are impassioned about what they do, genuinely so. And that infuses the experience for them even further, and then, they're out there with quality food. We have whitefish almondine baked brie and garlic bread for our first dinners, so we're giving them the local food, the whole thing. They feel safe, they have really top-notch people. So then when they come back, there has been this transformation. They didn't know what to expect. Maybe they think they know kind of what to, okay, we're gonna go kayaking. And people meet the experience on every different level. You know, some people just want to come and have fun and recreate, and that's all they need in life, and that's great. Other people come deeply moved, lives changed by an experience out in the Apostle Islands. So these are the people who are going. I paid $400 for that, and I got $1 million experience. You know, that's changed me profoundly. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that.
The other part of it is there's just a ton of fly-by-night, there's a ton of fly-by-night outfitters in the world who keep expectations extremely low. Because, I mean, they are doing bad stuff. They're not really people who are motivated by the resource or something. It's just like, hey, there's a river here, let's buy some rafts and see if we can turn a buck. It's a pretty different rationale. Where we're about sort of like, well, how can we get people to somehow tap in to their personal motivation and invest that in the lake, because the lake needs support. You know, look at, I mean, it's fantastic, but there's a lot of persistent hydrocarbons out there, yada yada. There's a lot of trouble, but the more people that have that sort of feeling about it, the more might, at some point, some way in their life, do the right thing for the lake or the Northwoods or the North economy or whatever it is. But you can't really cram it down their throats. So we try to keep that as our sort of quiet motivation. And I think people can kind of feel it. They're just there, and our staff are really committed. They can see the recycling going on. They can see the local and Whole Foods. They can see the way we take care of equipment and the way we're trying to save gasoline, yada yada. So, you know, they're not really expecting that, most of them. And then we've worked really hard on our grounds. It's beautiful there. So people kind of come driving off the highway and it's like, whoa, I didn't really expect this, you know, and so that really helps. Mary?
I recently had a tour of your place and it blew me away. If anybody else hasn't seen
Yeah, come up for a visit.
the business, you should go visit. But I remember when you were starting up, you had a vision of bringing in groups and corporate groups or people experiencing breast cancer. I know that you've worked with a lot of different groups who have certain common bonds, and I wondered if you could speak to that and if that still plays out in your business.
I'll start on that. You know, the business evolves sort of as Grant and I personally evolve. That's how close it is. And as kayaking, for example, myself, has gone from where at one time very skills-oriented, certifications, kayak instructor, sort of that was my goal and my outcomes with the kayaking for myself and students. But as I've sort of, if you will, matured through that, I'm more interested in using the kayaking, the lake, the outdoor experience as the platform, the area to springboard other types of growth and work. We work with the Breast Cancer Recovery Foundation in Madison out of Madeline Island, bring the kayaks over there and take women out on the lake who never ever would have thought that they would be kayakers, but that 30 seconds in the kayak on the lagoon at Big Bay, it counts. It's all relative. They're kayakers. They have the experience, and they get the joy and the connection, the deep connection that they're looking for. So yeah, Mary, as a creative program director, that's where I'm particularly interested, where art or creativity meets adventure, and developing programs there. That's what we do in Mexico, where Mary has been. We'll take that whole outdoor experience, the exhilaration, the inspiration, the clarity that you feel when you travel or when you're in the outdoors, and take that as a starting point for personal exploration, professional development. You've got a real big advantage right off the get-go with that type of forum.
In our original business plan, we said after 3 years that corporate program would be one of our top money generators. And we pretty much got so buried by our own business, just trying to get enough kayaks together and people together to do a day trip, that we have done a surprising number of them, but I would call them a wonderful series of accidents. You know, we never really have gotten to the real design and marketing of that particular product in the same way that we have for the other ones, because the demand has been so much. And we kind of go like, wow, 35 employees, man, how big can we really get and like this? And we feel like we're kind of there. And so do we really want to start other programs like that? Which we might want to do, but I don't know if we would do it and still do this. It's just, there's so many hours in a day. But some of our most wonderful moments have been with intentional groups who come expecting some kind of group experience, whether it's strategic planning or whether it's friendship, or whether it's nature connections or corporate team building, or we've had a lot of those. We had this insurance company one time who just got fried on 60 Minutes for, what was it? They had gotten sort of fried for offering insurance to disabled people. That wasn't really a great product, and people couldn't get insurance when they were having real problems. And this happened like 2 weeks before they did their program with us, and we did the sales staff. They walked in like, I can't believe I work for this schmuck company. That was the best attitude they come up with for the day. And, so there's a challenge. And we ended up doing this really great orienteering activity out on Basswood Island in the Voyager canoe, and talking about history and rebuilding and, changing culture. And they really left in great shape thanks to the lake and little creative design. But really, it's much smaller, Mary, than we would have anticipated, because we haven't really put the same attention into it.
Grant? Are you being, because of your reputations now, nationally and internationally, are you being asked for endorsements and or testing for your vendors and your 3,000 people through, and the equipment manufacturers, everything? Well, these people from my new design, does that come about?
It does happen occasionally, but one thing we never really got into is retail sales. So like, we don't sell 500 kayaks a year. We buy what we need to run our outfitting business. We're not really a retail outlet. So a lot of times people that are looking for equipment endorsements are looking for sales. And we can get pro deals on all that gear because they want us in their stuff. And we can get good pro deals for our staff, and we do all that kind of
So
thing.
you don't
But-
sell the used at the end of the year, you don't train?
Yeah, we do the used thing, but they're not interested in the used market. They want new product sales every year, and we're not a very good place to do that. It picks up a little bit during symposium years, because all of a sudden there's 500 people looking at stuff. But in our normal business, it's not really that way.
Think back to when you were starting out and how you competed against your competition and how you got across the point of your quality. And I've been on your trips, and I don't know price-wise how you compare to some of the others. I know your quality, and I guess what I'm trying to ask is, when you have a quality product, sometimes you are more expensive than some of your competitors. And how do you get people to recognize the quality of what they're paying for? Are you understand what I'm asking you? Yeah.
It's that, how do we work with our competition? People are, go on the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore website and they look at the list of commercial outfitters. How do they know who to pick? And one bottom line philosophy that I have with that is just keep doing really good quality and don't worry about it too much. We've had that luxury of that attitude over time because we've just grown. We've sort of, I don't want to say buried the competition, but we've done really well in the face of some of the other people running trips like we do. But we have to be careful and not, as there's more people offering trips, that is the question. And as a matter of fact, How do we let people know that we are quality? The website has to look good and has to look quality, because that's one of the first places that people are gonna look at your company. Everyone's going on the internet now to look, so it has to look good right there. And as a matter of fact, I'm gonna change the language on our homepage this fall for next year, because I'm feeling a little bit of pressure from some of the other companies, and I'm gonna actually kind of just put that question out there. When people call into us, we've got our reservation people aware of answering a question like that. Someone will say, why should I go with you? These guys are $10 cheaper, these guys are the same price, but this or that. And we say, well, ask the competition these questions. Ask them what the level of certifications are of their guides. Ask them if they have their own commercial licensed kitchen and what kind of food they're putting out. Ask them what is the years of experience that the people have. Ask them what kind of equipment they can expect to see out in the field. So pretty much we're saying, we got it. They don't.
You're trying to quantify what your quality is, in a sense. I mean, you know, quality isn't, or value is I mean, it's hard to quantify sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, what it is that your client is getting. And
It's a way of educating the consumer.
and why they should pay more for something that they see across the street for less.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a challenge. It is the challenge, and we try to grab the walk-through traffic in Bayfield, where we don't have we're 2 miles out of town. So that is one of our challenges, because there's other outfitters right there. So, grabbing the walkthrough, I think on where there's the longer distance, people setting up trips ahead of time through the phone courtesy, through the look of the website and so forth. We're grabbing those overnight people, but it is hard to quantify, and the word of mouth and just keeping it snowballing is about what we can try to do.
And are you still looking for investors?
Well, let's talk. Yeah.
Let's just take one more and then we'll probably just go.
Maybe I'm a good wrap-up one, because when you said word of mouth and integrity, all the times I've ever been on your trips and or friends who've come to visit me, your guides are, everything about everything you said is true. And your guides really, with enormous competency and humility and humor, and you just feel safe with them, and it's because of the kind of certification, and they let you know that in not a bragging way, they just really let you know that you're in really good, competent hands, and that matters, especially as someone who, I like them a lot. I only go with you guys. So.
Thank you. That is wonderful to hear, and there's a synergy there at Living Adventure. It attracts these type of people, and the guides are out front. They're in the field. They've got the biggest, longest interface with the customer, but we keep everyone, the person making wraps in the kitchen in the morning, realizing of what a part of that whole process they all are to get to this end product of someone who feels like you do about what you experience there. It's genuine. It's genuine.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the greatest qualities of Living Adventure. We have to make money and we gotta make the whole thing work, but there's a genuine, sincere love of the human, the nature connection that's going on there. Yeah, and it attracts people like you. Thank you.
And I like the hummus wraps.
There you go, good.
Well,
All right,
just to
thank
be
you.
sensitive to the time, I think
Yes.
we could just, again, take the question and answers out front, and Grant and Gail, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
We'll be out in the foyer, and we'll all be out there, and again, come back October 23rd. Dave Vedder will be here, and I'd like to have you come back and do what he'll present, and feedback cards. Thank you very much, and good evening.
Good evening. See you out there.